bullshit.
Yo, what's up, guys? Chris Flick Podcast, episode 75. Steve-O and I were just discussing on YouTube here. He's how tall are you?
5'7".
All right, me too. Probably got about 30 pounds on you. And I was like, hey, if you, my seat's higher, I think, but he was sitting far behind and made him look even a little smaller here, so we had to adjust it. But
I got nothing to prove.
No, he's got his left his ego at the door, I guess.
Absolutely.
So, episode 75, we talked about running this one, running one back a couple weeks ago. But first, we had a big victory last night, Steve.
Absolutely.
I kind of shut down even thinking about doing anything extracurricular. We had I think 5 weeks of youth camp scheduled out here on the farm. Long story short, there was a misunderstanding up front in the sense that we've had a horse business out here for, Maurice's probably been operating for, I don't know, 10, 15 years, somewhere in that range. I don't know the exact timeline, but anyway, we would have horse shows here. We would have different events. We'd have a lot of people coming in and out. It was never an issue, but I moved the gym home, offered these youth camps, right? And then we got a complaint. The complaint was like, how is this allowed? And somebody said, I never really pursued trying to get to the bottom of who would even say something like that. Don't really care. It was a little bit of annoying that then we had to go through the zoning process, which just got strung out over the course of 8 weeks. So we were still able to operate. We just had to go through the process. So we got notified, say, on like May 25th. The deadline to get the paperwork in to get on the June agenda was like May 21st. So we were already beyond that. So we had to wait to submit paperwork. Late June, we had to get our paperwork in just for us to appear on the July agenda, which happened last week, was our first meeting. And then last night was the official meeting. Anyhow, Steve, I don't even know if I filled you in on last week too much.
No, I didn't hear too much about it.
We have a friend up the road. She went through the process. She's like, the first meeting was like 10 minutes, second meeting about 30 minutes. For us, first meeting went 90 minutes. Last night went for about an hour. But that first meeting, man, we got this guy out here. So we're in Williams Township. We're in the country. There's a man that I think he was just kind of out to get us from the get-go. He wasn't happy about whatever was going on in this property. And this 10-minute meeting became a 90-minute meeting. And it had to do with a whole lot of stuff that didn't even deal with the business per se. It was wanting to cut our hedges down for the past 20 years because it sits right off the road. Technically speaking, if the town wanted to cut them down, they can, because I don't know what the laws are, but it's basically like if you have stuff within 10 feet of the road, they can use their, the thing that just came by yesterday where they just blast all the brush off the side of the road. It was that. It was, we're running 2-hour camps. He's like, you're going to have kids camping out there. We're like, no. They get dropped off like a sport practice. So these kids are going to be there mingling around potentially. We're like, no, we live here. No kids are going to be mingling. He's like, then they're going to be in there with horses. This is a liability for the taxpayers. We're like, no, we tell the kids that, they're all, first off, the horses are fenced off. We're not doing anything in the same fields.
Incredibly separated.
Right.
Not even questionable.
Is it possible for a horse to get out? Yes. But we have at least one barrier, sometimes 2 barriers, to prevent human and horse interaction. So he's going on about the taxpayers are a bottomless pit when it comes to lawsuits and blah, blah, blah. With the hedges, it's a tough turn. It's like, I get into an accident there, I'm going to sue you. He told us that a bunch of times. Just stuff like that just kept going. He's like, you're going to bring people in from the city. I'm like, the city? He's like, city of Bethlehem, which is it is a city technically, I guess, but anyhow, it was just a lot of nonsense like that. And at the end of the day, all of the stuff that got brought up last week as potential issues didn't get brought up this week. So
some people are just born to hate, I guess.
Yeah, you've heard that before.
Yeah, some people are just haters.
I mean, there was this guy that Steve-O talked about in the last episode. Never mind, actually. I won't go there. Let's just say there's a man that anything that was going on in his neck of the woods here, he was going to fight it a little bit like that. But anyhow, all of our stuff got through. What were we fighting for zoning? I could only see 4 people in an hour if I have a home occupation. So with a home occupation, you can't operate outside. So we had to ask permission. If it's a nice day, we have a home base. We have the barn here. The sections we're using is about 980 square feet. If it's a nice day, can we go outside? That was the thing that we're asking for. We're going to have more than 4 people here in an hour, maybe around 6 people. This is on regular business, not involving the camps, right? We had to ask for a variance there. Vehicles coming in and out of here throughout the day, we had to ask for a variance there. trying to think of what else. And then just the ability to host camps here where we would have up to 15 kids for a camp. That ended up being okay. Our driveway here, we have the ability to park a lot of cars in our driveway behind the barn. Then we have a horseback riding ring that's like 180 feet, I think, by 110 feet, where we had some big events. Like this weekend, we're going to have an event for something Marisa has going on. We'll park cars down there, and it's all connected through our main driveway. So as long as we follow some of these conditions that they laid out, they even gave us an extra guy. The guy said 16 could come for the camp.
Yes, I did.
Did you hear that?
I did hear that.
I was like, maybe he.
It's on the
did he
record.
misspeak? Yeah,
it's
no,
on the record now.
we all got sworn in. I thought Steve-O was going to give a speech last night, but he didn't come through.
Wasn't about me. Also, didn't know how they'd feel about me working here. Oh, you got another car there now? Another person on the premise?
Yeah. So, we were able to operate, not really, probably, whatever. I won't go into that part of it all because I don't know the details behind it. But it sounds like it could have been, you can't just do whatever you want on a property that you own. So some people that were like in support were like, man, that's messed up. That's your property. You can do what you want. But like, we can't just put a bunch of storage units out here if we wanted to. We can't build a large factory. Like, I get it. Yes and no. You should be able to do some stuff, but
Right.
I get that there needs to be some regulations and all that stuff. But Steve-O's out here on a internship, and you got to get to a zoning meeting.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Oh, man. Bureaucracy stinks, man.
I will say this though. You weren't there for the last week one, but after that meeting, I'm like, this was one of the more frustrating things. Like, nobody really lost their cool, but just the conversation was just like irrational speak, and I'm like, there's no way that this next meeting is going to be worse than this. And like, Marisa and I both handled ourselves good, and I'm like, I'm pretty much prepared for anything. And I'm like, these type of meetings here, like if I experienced this when I was younger, I probably would have been better handled for stuff now. So I think being able to go and seeing how some things work, I think is important, because yesterday, the first case, it's like Turkey Hill gas
Turkey Hill.
station, dude. And they got a lawyer, there's lawyers there. There's like opening statements. I'm sitting there thinking like, like an opening statement.
Right.
So then when we get up there, I'm like,
Hi, I'm
yeah.
good.
I was like, so what's the protocol here? Like, what do you want from us? So then we were able to go into it. But yeah, it was like a court case, I guess,
Yeah.
undefeated.
They were the judge and the jury, though.
That's what they said. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it. So anyway,
Got shut down real quick.
this experience, what was a positive? One, dealing with something like that, where somebody's just really pushing, not backing down from it.
It was
having one of these-
uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable.
And having one of these big
Overcame that.
meetings was like, yeah, you have to like fight for something. And it was kind of the first time that I've ever had something like that where you really had to speak up, and I kind of went toe to toe with somebody on things. And, we didn't back down, and we kept kind of pushing for what we wanted to do. And yeah, whatever. I'm glad.
Solid
happy
part of
about
my
it.
internship. It was necessary to be there. Requirement
Yeah.
for the internship.
So anyway, camps, business is good to go. Time to keep this thing rocking. Now we're getting into the training edition of this episode, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the plan here, Stevie?
Absolutely.
What were we just talking about today, man?
Knee over toe.
The knees over toes
toe
guy?
yeah.
No, I thought we had something else brewing. I was like, we should say, let's talk about the kids first. We were just talking about in the
Kids were
driveway.
training.
About, so I guess Steven here is, I think I probably started realizing it just when you have a kid and you're like seeing interactions between your kid and other kids, and how, like, you could start to understand how things get to a certain way based off of how parents handle situations when their kid is a young kid. So for example, let's say Emmy's 3, let's say she has a friend that doesn't want to share. The solution, I guess, would be to share, right? And somebody could be like, all right, you could punish that kid if they don't share, or because the kid doesn't want to share, say the parent would be like, all right, I'm going to take this toy away and nobody gets to use it.
Right.
But then what happens? Emmy doesn't get to use the toy, which was the girl's mission or the boy's mission from the get-go. She didn't want Emmy to use it. So like, taking that away shows as a child that if I put up a stink here, I could kind of get my
Yeah.
way. Things like that start to happen. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Right, yeah.
That kind of, that example's
if
a
I
weird
can't
one.
have it, nobody can have it type.
Yeah, so
mentality.
that thing, like that part of it all, I didn't really expect. Like, obviously there's like the basic correction stuff, but even little examples like that, I'm like, Like you can start to see how things end up the way they do, and not getting corrected. Being a bad team player. You might have kids of similar families. You know, cousins, brothers, sisters, and you could just see. I even see it sometimes where if a kid's 6 to 8 years older than the next sibling, that kid that's 6, say, it was just him for 6 years. It was just him and his parents. So the parents treated, like the moment that next kid was born, life will never be how it was.
Right.
That one day to the next, life's never going to be the same. So, that kid has all this attention, all of the corrections, whatever it may be, his upbringing and the next one's upbringing, they're not going to be identical. And you could see that personality differences sometimes, I think, with kids or people from different trees. But
Definitely.
I think Stephen just brought up a point out. I guess you could probably, if
You
you
can
want
just
to just
kind
go.
of see the difference at home, just how kids handle situations. Some are more prepared to handle certain situations, like if one kid's annoying another, does that kid try to annoy him back? Does he hit the other kid, or does he, take the high road and just ignore him, or do something that might be viewed as more mature, but in reality, it's just because of, the influence they have at home.
Yeah.
And then I even think, though, eventually we get to the point where, your parents play a huge role in your life, but, depending on what that kid is doing, there's a whole lot going around in the community. Like, if say a kid's at football practice, youth sports football practice, and 2-3 nights a week for 2 hours, they're around a bunch of youth football coaches. Now, those youth football coaches are going to have the ability to impact those kids, and
For good or for bad.
exactly. And so it's just really cool to see, you can tell some kids are around good influences, some are around bad influences, and it just, I guess, challenges me to make sure that, how am I influencing these kids?
Yeah.
Am I making sure I'm having a good impact on them and teaching them, like, what, like, be the bigger person here, or you don't cave into someone being annoying to you, or here's how we handle situations like that.
And there's kids like we were doing some testing and stuff with the high school team just to see what kids are capable of doing in terms of lifting weights, and you would see some kids. Kid's a sophomore, right? So he's 15. So it's like, do you want to give this kid a pass because he's not mature yet, but he has this childish thing where he doesn't get the rep that he wants to get, and he's like storming out of the weight room like he just lost an Olympic gold medal. But I'm like, dude, you've been lifting for 2 years. Like, you're not strong. You're not an expert. Your life doesn't depend on this. It's like, who gives a crap?
Yeah.
Like, don't act like a little baby if something doesn't go your way. And it's like, if that stuff happens when they're young. Anyway, you were talking about these kids. Like, I heard somebody once say, it was a psychologist, was like 0 to 4, like it's just the parents and the kids. But once they get to school, it's like a 50-50 thing.
Yeah.
Your influences are going to be 50%, maybe not even that, because there's some days that Emmy's at school and she's only 3, and like we wake up for 2 hours, she's gone for 4 to 5 hours, and then she's home for 4 or 5 hours. So right now we're almost at 50-50. Once her school day gets extended, it's, I don't know, she's there 7 hours, she sleeps for 10 hours, that's 17 hours. Anyhow, 0 to 4, it seems, main influences at home, but after that it's like peer groups, it's coaches, it's teachers, I don't know. So I think you got to choose wisely with who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
I don't even know. The immature part of it all, though, it's like, what makes some kids act that way? I think about that example I gave, like at the 3-year-old level, where some immature behavior about not wanting to share, if that is allowed, that's just going to continue potentially to the point where you might have a 15-year-old that doesn't know how to handle things not going their way in an appropriate manner. So, obviously you're allowed to get frustrated, but I don't know, man. There's just, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what the right and the wrong way is, but when you see the wrong way, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's, you could be sad, but you can't let it affect.
Right. How do you react to the situation?
Yeah.
Not what happens, but how do you handle what happens?
Yeah, it's reacting and responding, I guess, right? Reacting would be like this emotional response where you have like a little hissy fit, and a response would be a little more calculated, I think.
Right. Because
Right.
even though, like, sometimes even mentally you want to react a certain way, but, do you control that reaction? Do you show this to other people, or do you, keep that within and respond outside to a little bit differently than what you want? So.
And depending on who you are, man, it's like you're leading, other people are going to take your lead. So if you have 15 kids on the team that act that way, then those younger kids that are coming up are just maybe going to assume that's acceptable. But
Right.
so you have to be careful with how many kids are acting that way. And I don't know. That guy kind of called it some sort of I don't want to curse necessarily, but a-hole ratio has got to be like if you have 50 kids, like you can't have more than 5 kids. Like maybe it's like a 5% of the team or 10% of the team act a certain way. Because once it exceeds that number, then the whole like culture, the whole vibe in the locker room is not great and not ideal.
Yeah.
So, but I guess it always does kind of come back to parenting, because these kids are influenced somewhere, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, what else you got, Steve? Anything good? College football starting up soon.
College football, oh man, camp, 12 days out.
12 days.
Yeah.
Countdown's on.
Countdown is
How's the
on.
hammy feeling?
Hammy's feeling better.
How about the foot, man?
Foot is feeling better too.
Is it?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes. Shout out Doc Wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he cure you?
No, not cured.
Just helped.
Just helped.
Got it. You watching the Olympics at all?
I actually haven't seen the Olympics at all yet, which is probably not the greatest thing. But
Why?
well, I probably should have seen it, but yeah, it's just been kind of
it's-
busy.
It's hard. You got stuff going on.
Right. Yeah.
We were fired up the other day, though, about one instance.
Yeah, Simone Biles.
Yeah, what's up? What's
I
your
was.
take on it now?
I probably had a pretty quick reaction.
Oh, you
and
reacted
I
instead
did
of responding
react
to the situation.
Well, I at first I thought Simone Biles, like, what the heck? Like, she's stepping out of this competition, deciding not to compete in the finals. Like, what the heck? This is the Olympics, and and I decided it'd be best if I talked to people because I wanted to hear a lot of other people's perspectives. I talked to you, I talked to my dad. I talked to.
What did Mr. Rose have to say?
Mr. Rose, he just talked about his own experiences having sports anxiety and stuff, and how he could never overcome something like that, and he was never super involved in sports or had anything too
But he
ridiculous.
wasn't. So he wasn't super critical of anything, right?
Right, he was just thinking he understood like if there's that sports anxiety, and he talked about the ideas of in gymnastics. You have sports anxiety and you don't land a flip correctly, it could be life-altering right there. You could physically harm yourself very bad. And so that was what I got out of that conversation, which started to shift my perspective. I talked to another one of my mentors, and then talked to my friends, and I talked to one of my friends who's a gymnast too, just to try and get a full understanding of the situation, because you can't just get one side of the story. And I realized my initial reaction was a little wrong. And right now I'm sitting at the point where Simone Biles, I think she did do what was correct for USA Gymnastics, and I thought she did what was correct for herself to protect herself, one, from the, she's the greatest gymnast of all time. Yeah. No doubt about it. She's accomplished, she has four different gymnastic, whatever you want to call it, like flips, stunts, whatever, named after her, I think. Like, she is an incredible athlete, and there should be nothing taken away from her there. Most of the people hating, haven't even competed past the high school level. So, again, with the whole, some people are born to hate, I guess. They don't want to actually.
Well, the easy thing is
understand
to
the situation.
criticize, right?
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it, but I did see something that they changed the rules because of her.
What do you
Something
mean?
with the difficulty score, and they didn't adjust something, and I don't know. There's difficulty, and then there's execution with the scoring.
Yeah, I heard about
and
that.
something happened with.
Because she was doing more difficult things, she wasn't executing them as well. But the
They were
attempt
punishing
for
her.
difficulty things, I guess, was. I heard it helped her, the fact that she was trying more difficult things than other gymnasts, and other gymnasts were executing less complicated things, but not getting the boost.
Yeah, that's what I thought. My understanding was the other day, but then I was reading something. I don't know when. It was either last night or this morning, and it was like they weren't giving her. They changed the scoring around, and she wasn't getting credit, or I don't know. Something was going on with the scoring system that actually harmed her to try to even the playing field. But I don't know if that's true. I'm just repeating what I read, and it was one source. But anyway, we talked about trying to level the playing field. I was talking about the FMS picture with the guy in a deep squat in a shooting pose in the Army. Yeah. We talked about lowering the standards. What did you have going on? down and back or bear crawl or something in 6
Oh, yeah.
seconds. Lowering the standards. It sounds like the Olympic Committee was trying to even the playing field a little bit like
Yeah.
that. I don't know if I like
But
that.
it's, I don't know if that's
That's
you know,
not appropriate.
difference between equality and equity.
What about 100 meters? Back in the day, Usain Bolt's dominating. Do you want to give a guy a
Right,
three
yeah.
meter,
Like,
3 meter lead or what?
That's not the way the sport works.
Mm-mm.
But
And I also think it's getting too subjective if you start having multiple scoring systems.
yeah,
By itself, it's probably subjective enough where just one scoring system is probably plenty, I would think.
yeah.
But now
I
you're going
would
to have
agree
two
with
different
that.
variables, and it's like, sounds like a mess, really.
Yeah, it
The whole
does sound
Olympics
like a
sound like a
mess.
mess. Period.
Yeah,
I'm kind of out on the.
I don't know if I want to watch it now.
Yeah, I'll watch maybe some track and field if I could get some time. We got to get the live stream going in here, I think.
Yeah, we got a big
running loop.
Starters Riverport. You remember?
Starters
Right here?
Riverport, yeah.
Need that big screen right here on the side of the
R.I.P.
barn.
R.I.P. to starters.
Yes.
But I wonder if they still have a monitor. Maybe we could hit them up.
Yeah.
But we get that right there.
Yeah, and then you could just live stream the Olympics.
Yeah. What's your
then-
thoughts on steroids in the Olympics?
Steroids in the.
How many athletes
I
are on
watched.
Did you watch Icarus?
Yes, I
Yeah.
watched Icarus.
Let's talk about it. That's
Oh,
my
man.
favorite thing.
Yeah, I watched it. I
I'm
had
trying
a,
to talk to people about this. Nobody's watching. I'm like,
I watched it for my. I had a drugs and alcohol course at college, just learning about.
do you have to
all
sample all the drugs for the class or no?
No, I would. I did ask my professor that like weekly. All right, so we're trying this
Yeah.
this week, but no, it's. I don't know. I've heard people say if you ain't trying to cheat, you ain't trying to win.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Yeah, something like that. But I don't know. I think there's a whole thing about integrity. You ever hear of it?
I'm familiar.
Yeah. I think some people need to do some research, and I think there's a whole thing about, are you really the greatest in the world if you're injecting yourself with steroids and stuff? So in Icarus, there's an amateur cyclist who decided he was going to go on a cycle of steroids and
Yeah,
throughout a year or something.
he did the race 1 year, and then he was going to do it the next year. It's like the amateur version of the Tour de France.
Yeah.
And then he was going to compare times while being on a full steroid protocol,
it.
I guess.
That was actually, he worked with, he was going to work with one of the scientists from
Yeah,
an
Dick
American
Pound.
lab.
Richard Pound. His name's Dick
Yes.
Pound.
Okay.
That guy's been corrupt since for a long period of time.
Right.
He's been a part of this Olympic committee that they talked about Carl Lewis, I think, in that documentary. How he had a failed A sample, then he had a miraculous positive
Yeah.
B.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So there's been some shady stuff going on. That was the year that Ben Johnson got popped, 1988. I know that story well because Ben Johnson's coach has some books out. Anyway, go with your thing, and then I'll talk about that.
So he was going to work with an American scientist, and then this guy says, you know what, this is too risky for my reputation. I can't do
So
this.
where does he go?
Goes to the Russians.
He goes to Russia.
Goes to the Russians.
Yeah.
Russians, he goes to
Grigory
absolutely. Gregory.
Rodchenkov or something.
Yeah. Oh, what a guy.
What a guy is right. He was all about
this-
Orwell, man. 1984, you know it. He kept citing that book, George Orwell's 1984.
Yeah. And
Because he was the anti-doping agent for Russia, and he was running the doping program for Russia. So the anti-doping guy was doping the athletes.
He knew
about
the
that?
system, knew how they were going to test, and they built a system so that they would not get caught. Because he claimed everyone does it. The trick is to not get caught. And so he starts working with this amateur cyclist over Zoom calls and everything. And I don't know, it was weird to see just how serious and in depth this would go. Because
Genius.
Yeah, it was genius. But then at the same time, made me question so who all is doing this, and is this really even me personally, I would not be happy with myself even if I was successful with the fact that I had to go through this program of injecting myself with steroids and hiding it from everybody and stuff. That's not.
That would be the thing that sucks. Not that it sucks, but that would be the hard part. That for the rest of your life, you're going to be celebrated as an Olympic gold medalist, maybe.
Yeah.
But then you're going to know, no matter what, that unless you're one of those egotistical guys that just is it knocks it out of their back of their mind and I am the champ, I'm the best, which that probably exists. But yeah, you just know that you cheated. But if you know that everybody else has cheated, I was talking about the Ben Johnson thing because in the 80s, his coach is Charlie Francis, this guy from Canada. He has this book called, I think it was Speed Trap. And it just literally tells the story of Ben Johnson and how his team like no resources at all in Canada. And Charlie Francis comes in and he starts to put together this track and field team that's great. And they all got to this certain level here, but then they were having trouble kind of breaking through. And this is in the early 80s, where I imagine the former Soviet Union, Grigory Redchenkov might have been around in those times too. They just weren't breaking through.
He was in jail before. He got taken out of prison to do that job of being the anti-doper.
That's a perfect thing to do. You give the guy immunity, but then he has to work for you.
Right.
Yeah. He has to do whatever you tell him to do.
Yeah.
Speed trap, though, just becomes how the Canadian national team got to this point of taking steroids. Ben Johnson runs 9.79 in the Olympics, beats Carl Lewis. Next day, the gold medal's taken from him because he tests positive. It was the same Olympics, I think, that Carl Lewis had a positive A but a failed B. It was about marketability, potentially. The people that, I don't know. Anyhow, Charlie Francis says everybody was on steroids.
Yeah.
If you look at the female Olympic records from the 80s, it's from West Germany. It's these Soviet Union type countries for the power events anyway. And maybe the throws and the jumps, things like that, right?
Yeah.
Is that stuff ever going to get broken? I don't know. Usain Bolt, the greatest sprinter of all time, right? He's beating times that known juicers ran, but he's not juicing.
Allegedly.
Right? And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Everybody says he's not.
Right.
He might not be.
And he very
but
well
he's smoking
might not
the
be,
times
but yeah.
of everybody that dopes. So what's going on here? I don't know.
I don't know either.
After watching Icarus, though,
It could be possible.
that they're all doping,
Yeah.
one way or another. I tune in the Olympics, I see the fourth place team in medals is ROC. I'm like, what the hell is ROC? Russian Olympic Committee. And I'm
yeah.
like, really? You're going to ban Russia, but you're going to allow the Russian Olympic Committee to...
Have people, yeah.
And they're in fourth, right? I mean, yeah,
Right.
but they're all clean.
I think the Olympic
Icarus-
Committee needs to get it together.
It's corrupt,
Because
totally.
in Icarus, yeah, they
The whole Russian...
They were why can't I think of the word? Like they were going into depth, making sure they're looking at the. I'm drawing a complete blank. Investigating. That's
Yeah,
what,
investigating, yeah.
investigating everything, and it's like a long, drawn-out investigation, and like this thing's right under their nose, and they can't even figure it out. So
and then at the end of Icarus, too, they ban the athletes, but then they overturn it and let... Do you remember that at all? Like the Russian athletes gave this big press conference.
Yeah,
like,
how like they're banned, we're banned.
but they were still able to compete under a fall or
Right.
whatever flag. And then this Olympics, they're banned, right? But then you have this. Apparently, the clean Russians were able to compete. When Icarus breaks down that it was a widespread scandal of
Right.
doping,
Yeah,
countrywide,
yeah.
state sponsored
Yes,
doping.
from the top down.
Yeah, and Redchenkov's boys, they just start dropping dead.
Yeah, yeah.
People that are in the know, that
man.
know what's going on, they just start dying. So Grigory's got to go in the witness protection.
He's still in the witness protection program.
We got to get him on the podcast.
Yeah. We'll get a fake name for him. Maybe
yeah.
call him something like.
I mean, his
Ryan
wife
Hobb or something.
had a wife, had a daughter. Yeah. Can't see them again. He's not going back to
Yeah.
Russia if he wants to live another day. So
Right.
yeah, that's good, man. What else happened in that? Anything? What did your class talk about?
We
What was
just
your
talked-
teacher? Was he a skeptic, or was he like, nah, these testing procedures are solid and...
No, she was just. It was more so to look at the effects that it can have on your body and stuff, and
Long term, short term, both?
a little bit of both, and then also product of COVID. We had a lot of people not coming to class, so I guess it was more of a way to reward the people who were coming to class. She decided we would watch a movie for 2 days of the class. So
Nice.
yeah, but it was just cool to see because then it brought into perspective. Like we saw this guy, like the amateur cyclist, have to like inject himself with different steroids, and now he has to inject in a different spot because he's injected too many times into like his quad or something, and he needs to be on like every certain amount of like every hour he has to do like this specific thing. Like his life revolved around juicing,
Yeah.
and then it was just crazy to see like why would you want to do this to your body? And I mean, at least that's what I got out of it, is like I would never want to follow this entire protocol of you need to do this and you need to wean off of the the steroids and stuff so that you can, like at this time, pass a urine test, and then even the other stuff that went on, so that once they found out how they could cycle off of it, they then came up with a program so that they could stay on it, and then they would just swap out the urine samples so that, like when you talked about the first urine sample would come dirty, there would be two samples, sample A, sample B, and they claimed that there was a unsealable or unbreakable seal, but then all of a sudden someone found a way to break these seals without anyone knowing it, and so they're returning these urine samples with clean urine
through like a small hole in a wall.
Right. Yeah.
Because the Olympics that year were in Russia, so they were shuttling in urine from like maybe like an electric outlet size like hole in a wall.
Yeah. So it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, they figured out a way to break the unbreakable. The unbreakable seal or whatever it was.
Yeah.
We're going to one more thing is that Lance Armstrong, I think, passed 150 drug tests. He never failed, I think, is the story. He got busted because all of his teammates ratted him out, probably because he was kind of an asshole.
Yes.
And that's how he got busted. So, clean athletes and competing at a high level. I don't know, man.
I don't know either. I feel like gotta have some integrity when you compete. Like
the Olympic spirit.
You gotta be able to sleep at night.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about this too with Simone Biles. Is like, why would somebody think that just because they're the best in the world that like they wouldn't want to, or not that they would want to be depressed. I was almost going to say like have suicidal thoughts or something like that. Like they're still a person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying, I don't know if that's a part of the Simone Biles story at all, but it's like, so you look at the population, if whatever the percentage of the population is depressed, that same percentage is probably expressed in athletes as well.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, it's like, why would you think otherwise? Just because you're the greatest at something, like.
Well, there was a big thing with Dak Prescott, even with him moving in the NFL at least. That began like a year ago or so. And
what was him just like?
Just the fact that he was battling depression and he lost like a close family member and stuff, and you know.
Yeah, of course, man.
Everyone's
like,
got their battles.
Yeah, imagine that, and then people expect you to give a crap about a game.
Right.
You know, when your brother just died, your mom just died, your sister just died. It's like.
And there's those people that expect you to, you know, like get over it instead of being there and helping you get over it. Like I think too many people are hating from the side instead of saying like, how can I help you? And obviously, you know, like a fan from so-and-so, Simone Biles doesn't know, it's not going to necessarily help her get over the sports anxiety or mental struggles she's going through. But, you know, I feel like we need a better culture of support. And not just saying like, you know what, like do what you need to do, but like how can I help you get over this thing? Just because, you know, like even at the high school level, like we talk about Olympic level, but it's like college level. There's college athletes that have these battles going on, and you know, high school level they have these battles that going on. And I mean, we even talked about it with, you know, people that we might run into that when training they have their own stuff that's going on, and how can we help them, you know, get through these battles and not necessarily cave into what's going on, but like how can we help them?
I know, and I don't even know. There's probably not really a great answer.
There's no best way to do it.
Yeah, and even I think support from the outside is I don't want to say irrelevant, but 1,000 people could tell you like, we love you, but if you don't, you wake up one day, if you wake up every day and you don't feel loved or whatever it may be, or you wake up, you're depressed for 1,000 days in a row, and on day 1,001, 100 people tell you they love you, like it's not going to change how you feel. Yeah, I think it's all individual, and I don't know if she had time. She probably felt that she didn't have time to take care of herself. You know, the pressures and the training and all that other stuff, and that whole lifestyle seems rough, man. That gymnastic lifestyle, especially with
on top of the other stuff going on with it.
They had that scandal a couple years ago. I don't know if Simone Biles was part of that. I thought she might have been. But either way, man, they put a lot of pressure and it's a lot of training on these young girls, and it's kind of weird, you know.
It's like the weight of the world on their shoulders right there. Which no one deserves.
There's like a Carrie Strug from like '96 Olympics with a broken ankle, torn tendons and stuff. She's still out there competing. She's like 15. The world's cheering her on. It's like, it's weird. I don't know I think her career was done after that one.
Yeah, you know? Probably.
So as a 15-year-old, you get Olympic glory, but you might have a lifetime of pain and discomfort.
I've heard of people who, you know, walk away from the sport never watch the sport again.
Yeah.
Because it's ruined for them. So, like, what good is that for the sport if you have one of your greatest
Well, I
competitors?
guess they just use you up, man.
Yeah.
They use you, and then whenever the next, I'm trying to even think. I mean, I remember Gabby Douglas. There was like Sean Johnson, Nastia Lukin. It's like these girls are winning gold, and then the next Olympics it's somebody new, and then the previous winners like doing reality TV and Dancing with the Stars. You know.
Yeah.
That's about it. So once they're done, once they're used, once they have no more value, maybe they just gymnastic world just is kind of like on to the next one.
Well, that was something I talked about with one of my friends because I was just talking about, from my perspective from football, I've had great coaches that have, not just helped me get better at football, but helped me learn to be a better teammate, a better person and stuff. Like there's that other, outside effect that a coach can have on somebody. Like we talk about parenting and the influence other people can have on you. A coach can have a tremendous impact on you. And I was able to have that through football, but, where is that in gymnastics with, all the brutal things we've heard on it? Like I took a sports history class and we even talked about the history of sport of gymnastics and how, all the sexism and stuff that went with the sport. Like you need to land a certain way to remain looking feminine and stuff. And, this sport, it still has so far to go with having these like great influences, like where these gymnasts
it's a
come
huge
back.
thing.
Yeah.
People love it. People watch it, right?
Right. And
A lot of girls watch it.
Gymnasts
A lot of
are
young girls are like, they
Right.
look up to these. I mean, these kids, the people competing are like 15 to 20 range. You
Yeah.
know? There might be an exception, but there's rules. I don't think you could be under a certain age. Do you know what that rule is? It's like under.
I think we talked about it in my class.
Yeah, I don't
They
either.
changed it. They had to change it because there was
the
these-
Chinese population they were running out some like 11-year-olds.
Right, they were
doing some crazy
abusing
stuff.
these or taking advantage of someone who's not even fully developed mentally.
But I
or
remember that
anything.
last Olympics. It was like Allie Raceman might have been 26 and she was like old.
Yeah,
Yeah, like that was
Right.
like an outlier to be that age and like still in the Olympics or something. But yeah, but a lot of girls look up to these girls and they.
and then like I feel like we need, not we or whatever, but it would be cool to see a culture shift where they start to have these good coaches that have more of a positive impact on them, so that they can not walk away from the sport of gymnastics hating it or having regrets or whatever they might have in their mind, and coaches that are there for them for when they have these mental struggles and everything. I just feel like that would be a great thing to continue building on that culture in that sport.
And I went to a gymnastic gym a couple years ago, and like I'm a total stranger to these girls, and like the owner is like, the kids are there like 9 to 11. They're all homeschooled, and was like, "Hey, do this right here. Show him blah blah blah." So like, I'm just a stranger in there.
Right.
This individual was having their athletes like it's like a dog doing something on
Right,
command just to show some random guy that was in there. All these people are like, they can't demonstrate any kind of move imaginable. I'm wondering to myself, why is this 65-year-old guy like coaching 11-year-old girls and things that it was a weird vibe. And yeah, I don't know what to make of it, man. It's all odd. I guess athletes get used and abused no matter what, though. Look about the NCAA stuff, man. I mean, kids can't even start a clothing line until this year.
Well, even
Like-
then, there's still rules. All right, well, NCAA allows it, but now this goes against their college. You can't use our logo. You can't use this and that. There's still so much that goes into that.
From the university?
Yeah, from the universities.
And then another, like Cam was saying, like or at one of the PA schools, they're like, the state of Pennsylvania has rules. Every state has rules based on what you can and can't do.
Right.
Apparently. Is that true? Do you know that?
I've
I don't
heard
know
about
anything
that,
about
but
it.
I don't
yeah.
know anything
I
about
don't
it
look
either.
into it, but like, say they wanted to run a sport camp or something, like they would have to still get it approved by their school. And college coaches like yelling at their team about stuff for not getting stuff approved. I'm just like, so what are we doing? The whole thing with the NCAA is like, was it billions of dollars? I'm assuming generated. Or were we in the
The
millions?
NCAA. So honestly,
Do you know anything about it?
I did.
Because-
I learned about it in another one of my classes. Wow, look at me using all my college education today. In a
Good.
sports psychology class, we talked about the NCAA, and so the NCAA does get hated on a lot more than, yes, it is a business, but it's not necessarily a profitable business because there's a lot that goes on. Like, yeah, the basketball tournament makes a ton of money. College football, depending on the program, makes a lot of money. And almost every other sport loses money for the NCAA because of, football. You're bringing in a crowd of, 100,000 maybe.
I bet that's.
How about when you're looking at
I hear you, man.
a softball game, girls basketball, like there's golf, there's rowing, there's how many other events go on that there's such a difference between the amount of income made from fans and support and stuff, like publicity. You don't see rowing on TV and stuff, but those events are still going on. So there's a whole lot of difference between what they see and what they don't see, because you might never hear of like a golfer, an NCAA golf athlete that makes money off of their name, image, and likeness because of this small audience they have, or smaller audience compared to maybe the starting quarterback at Alabama. So it's weird to see how then these, like the football program might support a university's entire athletic budget, because Penn State football brings in, say, $15 million. When we looked, there was 15 universities that did not have a loss from their athletic program, maybe football program. 5 of them were profitable, the other 10 broke even. So that just shows that there is a lot of other like little nitpicky things that go on. So I don't really fully understand the NCAA, but I don't get how using their athletes can, like, not allowing your athletes who are successful to profit off of their own success.
It's even like, I don't know what school it was. It was a basketball player in like San Diego State or something. It's like he wanted to, like, his goal is to have a clothing line, and he couldn't do that before.
Yeah.
Now he can.
Well, there's a guy.
It's like, why is the NCAA would even like say like you can't do that?
There's a guy who was a famous YouTuber, or whatever you want to call it, from
a famous YouTuber.
Yeah, he was a popular YouTuber. Like, he was making money off of his YouTube channel, and he had it in high school, and he was a kicker for a college. And the NCAA said, you need to shut down this YouTube channel, or you can no longer kick college football. And then this guy is forced to pick between something like this, and his YouTube channel didn't even have anything to do, I don't think, with the fact that he was it's not like, hey, I kick for this college, come watch my YouTube channel.
He's selling DVDs for kicking.
Yeah,
he's
so
just a guy that he just talks into his phone, I guess.
I guess, I don't know. Either way, he was making money off of it, and he had to stop making money off of that. So there's just like, who are they to tell him to stop doing something like that? Like, that's almost like thinking about the why. Like, this is demotivating to this guy to want to play football, or this is, why should other athletes seek out different things like marketing themselves and, starting something like being successful at, being an entertainer or whatever you want to call it. Now this might not get pursued because it's like they're going to get in trouble for it. So it's like they have to focus on one thing, and I'm not a fan of that.
Me either. So I don't even know what this. I don't know anything about it, unfortunately, with the change in the rules, but it appears to be a good thing. But you also talked about the teams breaking even and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, if you make $100 and you spend $100 on travel expenses and taking care of your staff and faculty, then you're at $0.
Right.
You're breaking even, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to live like let's say you live like a king. You guys travel in these incredible ways, like that's still better than the people that don't generate money and have to scrape by. Like, you're living like a king, but you're breaking even at the end of the year on paper.
Yeah.
But there's still advantages to that, right? So
how
as an
about
accounting
these things?
thing, like if you have a business and you could write things off and it could bring that number down, and you're gonna be,
And you claim you're breaking even when in reality you could have profited off of it, or.
Yeah, like your choices on how you did things maybe created additional expenses. So, I get that.
How about the buyouts from coaches and stuff that exist? Like, we don't want this guy as our head football coach at, say, Tennessee or something. $30 million buyout. He gets paid $30 million to get laid off.
Did that happen?
Things like that happen. Yeah, I think the Texas head coach got
I remember
fired
that when Charlie Weiss got fired by Notre Dame, he was getting paid. I think he was, where did he go? Kansas. This was like, I was in college when Weiss was a coach. But
Yeah.
anyway, so Notre Dame was paying him. And then he was at Kansas. He was double dipping. I don't know if he went back to the NFL for a year or two, but he was definitely getting paid by 2 universities. He got fired. He got bought out of his contract, so he was collecting checks. And then he got a new job.
Right.
He was able to double dip
Right.
that way.
And like that money, that type of, like those numbers are, I guess.
Oh, yeah, so if you said Notre Dame broke even that year, say?
Right.
Oh, yeah, well, they gave their old coach $12 million.
Exactly,
You
yeah.
know? So, yeah, they did break even on paper, but their stupid decision.
And here, like million thrown around with football way too often, but it's like, how about the other people that could, maybe the other workers, and I mean, even in the strength and conditioning industry, you hear someone, you can't afford to pay an assistant strength coach, a livable wage or something,
Yeah.
considering the 12 hours they work, but then you can pay your old coach $12 million to no longer work there because he was doing such a bad job.
Because you're stupid and you gave him a long-term contract. Because you just won 8 games 1 year, and you're like, this guy's a savior, and he's
Yeah,
going to get us to
right.
the promised land, and then you're 3-7, and you have to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, sounds like bad business practice maybe for that university.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody
Somebody made a bad-
else
somebody
needs
should-
to get fired. I think.
Somebody should get fired for
Yeah.
that. Hey, man, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know what to make of it all.
I don't know what to make of it all
NCAA,
either.
I'm like going full on skeptic mode. Olympic Committee,
Yeah,
thumbs
Olympic
down.
Committee needs
NCAA, thumbs
Yeah,
down.
thumbs down,
I'm
yeah.
out on them all. Crooked.
They
What
need
else
to,
can we trash a little bit here?
take a look in the mirror, I think.
What else, is there anything else we could trash talk?
Um,
Crooked, corruption.
let me think.
We're supposed to be talking about working out this episode.
Yeah, we were. We actually. So we'll go back to the Simone Biles thing for
Are we
a
going
second.
back?
Yeah, going back. So
Circle it.
I think that it's an important aspect to take away from this is, how can coaches help, raise their athletes up and stuff. And I mean, we talked about it the last podcast about instilling confidence in somebody, because I'm always thinking about, people throw around the idea of mental toughness, and mental toughness is, people say, oh, run these sprints, it'll make you tougher. Go do a marine workout, it'll make you tougher, mentally tough. And I'm like, no, it probably won't. But what can make somebody mentally tough? And I think I asked you this. It's like, so being mentally tough, in my opinion, is being resilient in a challenging situation. How do you become resilient in a challenging situation? You have confidence. And so it starts with just building this confidence, and how can you
But how do you
build
build
confidence in
confidence,
people?
Steve?
Right. Yeah, and I think it's by doing hard things. And I think you talked about it in another one of your podcasts about, this beam is maybe 2 inches off the ground, and they walk on the beam and it's fine. And now maybe you raise that beam a foot off the ground now. It's the same beam, but
How about 100 feet off the
yeah.
ground?
Well, you got to do that. You got to build up to that. You can't just go 100 feet off the ground. So,
Oh, I get what you're saying.
you know
Sorry.
what I mean? Just slowly building that confidence in people, I think is just incredibly important to do as a coach.
And I was going with the fact that the beam on the ground and the beam suspended 10 feet in the air, it's still the same beam.
Right.
Granted, the one that's 10 feet in the air, there's a lot more circumstances going on now. It's like a bigger event. It's a
Yeah.
bigger challenge. But you still have to remember, like, it's still just the balance beam.
Yeah.
It's still just that one thing that you've done 100 million times. Trying to keep that mindset when there's a lot of other outside noise. It's definitely not an easy task. Was that last one I talked about?
I don't think
Heavy's the head. Heavy's the head that wears a crown. Shakespeare.
No,
We bring
that
in
was
there?
not.
Did we talk about that?
We did not. Maybe
Man.
you did on another one of your podcasts.
Absolutely, man. It's
What is that?
some sort of King James something. Heavy's the head that wears the crown. So whoever's at the top, the guy that's wearing the crown, the
Yeah.
responsibility is huge.
Yeah,
And
makes sense.
yeah, and
Simone
you
Biles.
got to be up to it. She wasn't at that moment.
The
The pressure was there.
There's a lot of pressure. She was.
All of
King
the
of-
stuff that she did, I mean, you start even looking at, I use like the fighting stuff because it's like, in the UFC say they blow up a character and then, not a character, a fighter. Ronda Rousey, for example, is a king or a queen, then she starts doing all these other movie roles, but she forgets. She starts taking on all these other different personal responsibilities that maybe got her away from what she needed to be doing. You know,
Yeah.
maybe Simone Biles becomes like this voice of women in gymnastics and stuff like that, and
Which is awesome.
it is awesome.
But it's
maybe
more,
she's getting
adds
pushed
more
and
on her
pulled.
plate.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, when this is totally, you know, you get something hard going on, and it's like I think the best thing to do is just try to limit the outside noise. I think for me anyway, because my brain just can't personally handle it. So if you're like people push and pulling you in
know
all
what
these different
Jocko would
directions,
say?
what?
Prioritize and execute. Got to go through one thing at a time. You can't do 10 things
But
at
then
once.
it's like going back to the NCAA stuff. It's going back to the Olympic Committee stuff. It's like there's pressure on you. It's your coaches putting pressure on you to do stuff. Maybe people just ask for a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and all of that stuff just builds. And 8 years later, when you've been in the game for a while, now you're doing all these things, and you're just like, what the hell just happened here?
Right.
You missed the Olympics, or you lose something that you used to be able to do, or you have a bad day. I don't know. It's
Reading the one thing, you gotta for every yes you say,
yeah.
you do end up saying no. So people that think that who have a hard time saying no, and so they say yes to a lot of things, they end up saying no a lot to themselves. Then so
Yeah.
you have to be able to say no and
Power
make sure.
of no.
Yeah,
It's a big one.
and I mean you don't know other people anything.
The guy, I don't know who this was, but was like, if it's not a hell yeah, then it's a no.
Yeah,
Where if it's like, if you're not going to be super excited and really into doing it, then it's no. There's nothing in between that. You don't just do something to do it.
right. Makes sense. Do it.
If you have control of your decisions in your life. And
Yeah.
I don't know if these athletes
Right.
do.
Yeah. Now
I don't
there's
think they do.
that entire other factor of
Because I think they have to answer to people.
yeah.
So, I guess life lesson, don't answer to anybody ever, Steve.
Absolutely not. No way. As I'm on this podcast with my boss.
Take the power back, I think.
Yeah. Command respect.
Command respect. Absolutely. What are you doing for workouts, man? Football going into your senior year now.
Okay.
We talked about this before. Strong enough.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think
Is enough enough?
they're strong enough. You can be strong enough. If you squat 700 pounds and say, throughout the year you can add 20 pounds to your squat. When you're if you're a 200-pound squatter and you add 20 pounds to your squat, that's an additional 10% right there. If you're a 700-pound squatter and you add 20 pounds to your squat, that percentage is a fraction of that. When you could be spending that time probably in a better, more optimal way.
Yeah.
Building power, building speed, building stability, balance, mobility.
Maybe your sport?
Yes,
Practicing the sport?
very true.
Yeah, there's examples everywhere, I think. That example of 700-pound squat, I would say that you're going to have to commit a serious amount of time to get from 7 to
Right.
720.
Right.
And that I'm talking months to even get a 5-pound bump, because if you're squatting 700, you've been in the game for a while, and improvements just don't happen. There's that law of diminishing returns where it's like, you could get your squat from 3 to 350, saying something. Okay, now I could see a substantial increase in some sort of athletic attribute, but getting from 350 to 400, now
It's much harder.
I'm not getting much of a return on it, but I'm committing a lot of time to it. So maybe I could take that time and apply it elsewhere and get that, find a different way to improve those athletic qualities without having to grind away. I think Dan John, the one guy that I talk about all the time, I mean, he's like, I got my back squat up to whatever. It could have been something ridiculous like 580, and he's like, I threw the discus, 6 meters shorter than usual, which is huge or something,
Yeah.
So he learned, when he was a college athlete, that, we got to get our strength to a certain point, and then from there, let's practice our game.
Well, even my time, helping out at Lehigh, I'm around their football team, and it's a Division I university, and I play Division III football at Ursinus. And, I'm probably stronger than a decent amount of these kids there. But that doesn't mean I can play football as good as them.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I run routes as well. That doesn't mean I'm as fast as them. Just because I can back squat a certain amount of weight more. So then that really opened my eyes to this is really cool to see. Because, I could have that ego. Oh, yeah, I squat more than you. Cool. There's no trophy for that. But there's a trophy for...
There's a trophy for squatting more than somebody.
Yeah, but not
Powerlifting trophy, maybe?
not the intern trophy
Not at a
for
football.
squatting more than the football.
They don't give a
player
championship
trophy.
belt?
No.
Lehigh intern,
No,
squat champ?
maybe I'll bring that up at the next time I'm there. You know,
Yeah, get
hey,
some
we giving out belts for the
open
interns that squat the most. But no, but like realistically, you know, it was cool to see because for me, I learned, you know what, I'm gonna have these athletes that are maybe strong enough and maybe their time can be better spent. And that's another thing that's on my mind too, is if I'm a strength and conditioning coach, do I want to maybe have time for individualized, you know, attacking needs? And I feel like I've seen the Alabama strength coaches, they measure almost literally everything about their athletes, but then they say, you know, this guy needs to work on power development, this guy needs strength, this person needs something else. So, and then they attack what they need so that, you know, they as a team can be the most successful because, you know, if your entire team is really good at back squatting, but then you have a bunch of guys who can't do anything else, you're not going to be that great of a team, I don't think.
No, and that kind of goes with that, you know, going from 700 to 720, you talk about strength, you talk about power. It's like you could get your absolute strength up, but when you're playing a power sport, you might not be able to like generate as much, you know, power that's needed to do something.
Yeah.
And you talked about the needs and stuff. When we talked about, I think it was yesterday with the like the functional movement screen, and we talked about how, you know, a lot of people want to like clear up, be as symmetrical as possible and fill in some of these gaps. But the guys that invented that thing were like, you know, if you're a high-level athlete, if you're at the top of your game, like a pro, say a quarterback, or even the Olympic athletes that throw, you know, you're not going to score well on some of these functional movement screen tests because you need asymmetry to excel.
Right, you're always rotating one way.
He said the elite are asymmetrical. The average person, yeah, we could work on symmetry and a lot of this stuff, but, you know, the quarterback's going to have the different shoulder mobility stuff from right to left. The discus guy is going to be able to twist, turn. Somebody that does something in like a one-legged stance, I don't know, fencing probably has the same stance. They're like inline lunge they're like lunge stance that they score on the FMS is probably better one side than the other.
Yeah.
So it's like
The body's
they get, once you're at this high
asymmetrical.
level, it is. And that high level, it's like a whole nother ball game, you know, like the shot putter, he doesn't need to focus on a lot of qualities because he throws an implement for it and he needs to focus on a few things.
Right.
So it's like once you get to football, say, that has a lot of qualities to it. You have to run, jump, sprint, whatever it may be. But I guess you get to a certain point too where you can just kind of whittle down and just focus on what's essential and not the non-essential.
And
It's a different sport though. Like,
Right.
Because there's a lot, like if you play wide receiver, you need to be able to do a lot.
Right, if you're lifting 5 days a week and you don't have time to catch passes, you know, is that really what's most beneficial for you if you're a weight room warrior?
Yeah.
Or do you need that time to be able to, you know, build that chemistry with the quarterback, get good at running routes, get good at catching a football? Because even if you run the fastest, you put Usain Bolt out at receiver in the NFL. Do you think he's going to be the greatest receiver of all time? Probably not.
No,
Because
there's a lot more qualities
absolutely.
that go into that sport. That's a crazy sport, really.
Yeah.
Because like every position has different demands, and there's 11 of you. There's a lot going on, man. Anything else you want to hit on, training wise? We got a lot of stuff to talk about,
Yeah.
and I don't think we got to. We got a little zoning
That was
and Olympic
one
stuff
one
today.
thing off
We
of
went
the
sidetracked.
checklist right there.
Triphasic stuff. You talked about it. There's two thoughts. I had this thought this morning. You need to be able to train different. You need to, like, weight room max outs today. It was like, hey, we got to leave at 10 o'clock. It's time to go. Last
Yes,
set.
yeah.
Last set.
Absolutely.
We don't
yeah.
have time. You got to do it. All right?
Right.
That's not, and then you have this triphasic. This was another thought I had today. The triphasic part, the lift and sprint part. You have maybe a power move, maybe you have a sprint with it. Those are training two different qualities. The triphasic stuff we talked a couple weeks ago where it's like, there's one coach that says he doesn't want to ask multiple energy systems to work in the same day. He kind of wants to focus on something today and then maybe focus on another quality. I think he almost might do it in like blocks almost.
Yeah.
A week or two or maybe 3-week blocks. Sports are chaotic.
My own strength coach actually started to go off a similar philosophy. We had a day where we did more strength based, and we had a day that was more power based. And on the strength days, we would do like your typical, what you, I guess, think of when you first think of a weight room and weight training and stuff. And then on a power day, we had, body weight jumps, loaded jumps. We had squats where you don't necessarily put a percentage of your max on the bar, but you have weight on the bar and you move the bar as fast as you can, and different kinds of medicine ball movements and stuff. And he explained it to me that, he wanted to train power this day, and he did not want to go through eccentric strength, isometric strength, being powerful, being strong, having endurance, all of that on one day. He wanted to just focus on one thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that works.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
And yeah, there's a lot that, I think that's another overthought thing though. What's the best way? And maybe the best way is 0.1% better than all the other ways that are going on. I saw a guy who just said, you want to add, weight to something, just add 5 pounds every week for 10 weeks, and you add 50 pounds to it until it doesn't work. Then do something else.
I guess that's when the coaching has to come in.
Yeah.
Everything does work though for a while. You start a new program, man, you get like trying to get lean or meat, like a fat loss program or something. It's gonna work, but then once your body adapts, it's like, now what? That's I think that's kind of what you were saying.
Yeah.
You could do this eccentric stuff, and you're gonna be like, oh wow, this is awesome. Isometrics, whatever it may be. But if you train for 8 years, you're probably gonna hit these lulls where you don't see much improvement. It's like, so now what? That's, to add 5 inches on somebody's vertical that is weak and never worked out before, that's easy. But to add an inch to an NFL player's vertical,
Probably
that's some
pretty
serious
difficult,
coaching, right? So I guess there's that part of it as well too. I don't even know if that has anything to do with what you said, but there's, I don't know, I guess you got to be careful on what you read and what you believe on a lot of these things. I think if you see what the elite do, it's like, I don't think they're out there doing these, drills with hurdles, and they're doing these like, exchange things. Is that really?
A program is only as good as the person coaching it. Because
No, I totally agree. And there's a lot of stuff out there that I think sometimes is like, are the best in the world doing this? I think it's a lot of show stuff on like Instagram and stuff, and I'm just like, cool, you got a band and you're stepping into it, like pushing down. All right, like like the wall drills that we talked about. It's like your posture's awful.
Right.
You're not getting out of it. Are the freaking best in the world actually doing this? Probably not. They're probably on the track, running hard, taking long breaks, running hard.
Right.
Maybe Charlie Francis, when he's outlining the stuff with Ben Johnson, he's lifting heavy and taking long breaks. 500-pound bench press for a 100-meter sprinter. Stuff like that. Track, run hard, 30-minute break, repeat, like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Not what you see on Instagram.
Now he's what?
It's not what you see on Instagram.
No, it's not. No. You see stupid stuff on Instagram.
Man, I think we wrapped this thing up, man.
All right.
We'll probably hit another one before
Nice.
school. What do
Yeah,
you think?
absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
it would be.
We could scratch one of the 8 things off the board that we talked about. Peace. We got a victory last night.
Yes.
YouTube. Google Play. Is that a thing? Google Play? Is that where you listen on podcasts on Google? I don't know. We're on Google, I think. Whatever the Google app is for podcasts. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. It's out there, man. Episode 75. We're getting to 100 this year. Peace.
Later.